hopefully, whatever you think we are, hopefully we'll give you another shade, another color, another spectrum, so that you can kind of go, wow, there are a lot more to meet the eye, so I hope that that's what, and most importantly, enjoy the film because it's a fun film.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Talal, and you're watching the Popcorn and Soda podcast, the show where we discuss all things movies, pop culture, and so much more. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for making me a small part of your day. On today's show, we're joined by a very special guest, a creative artist whose career has spanned over decades with over 100 credits to his name, and he can soon be seen in the romantic comedy Five Blind Dates, releasing February 13th on Amazon Prime. On the show today, the very talented Mr. Tzi Ma. How are you, Mr. Ma?
I'm well. How are you? Hello to all your listeners, watchers.
Uh,
I'm
well,
looking forward to this interview.
well, likewise, and I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking, and
Oh,
it's an
mhm.
absolute pleasure to be speaking to you here today. Mr. Ma, it's 2024, and you're starting the year off with a bang with Five Blind Dates. We're coming off such a paradigm shifting time in the industry over the last 3 to 4 years with a pandemic, a work stoppage. As a creative
Mhm.
artist yourself, how are you feeling at the start of 2024 here?
I think I'm optimistic. Obviously, Five Blind Dates is a fairly historical step forward, in terms of making progress. It's written by an Australian Chinese actor writer who happens to be a TikTok star. So you have everything that is uh, what is current, as you can see, and it's a really charming film. I what makes this film special for me is that the all the all the Asian men of all around the globe have finally been seen as a romantic character and rarely seen in our business. We're everything but, rarely where you will see an Asian face as the romantic in a romantic setting. And it wasn't always the case in history. Back in the day, there were, the quote unquote, the tall, dark, handsome, kind of ethnic men who are actually very romantic and very sexual. That's changed since, whatever reason, probably geopolitical, with war, you know, and all of a sudden we've disappeared from that part of our performance. So now I find that with Five Blind Dates, I do see, that change, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see it and to again, give our young, Asian or actors around the globe an opportunity to be the romantic lead.
Absolutely, and for sure. And before we deep dive into all things Five Blind Dates, as someone
Mm.
who's watched your work for years, I'm just so fascinated by your story, Mr. Ma. So, where does this begin for you, and what made you want to be an actor?
I'm the youngest of seven children, and so we lost two during the war in China, and I'm the youngest. So I am really the cheap entertainment. I kept everything light. Everybody works hard, and we had a family restaurant on Staten Island, New York, where everyone works. So in order to kind of keep the pace going, keep it light, I was the obvious choice for entertainment. So that began at a very young age, and also I had some very good mentors. Growing up, I had two very significant teachers who I find I like to give them all the credit for starting my interest in acting because they were Broadway enthusiasts. One was an algebra teacher and one was an art teacher, and they would take the class to Broadway, and we get a chance to watch these wonderful plays on Broadway. And as they started the drama club, and I said, you know what? I want to be part of this, and for two reasons. One, it's fun, that I can enjoy, and also there's a lot of girls in the club, so I was interested. Number two is a quick way of circumventing the racism I was facing, as a minority, because the school play is the event of the year. So if you were participating in the event of the year, uh, people tend to pay attention and say, hey, wait a second, this guy is playing Buffalo Bill in a musical. Uh, that's not the way how I saw him. That's not the way we see him or how we perceive him, in the school. So it broke a lot of ground. It gave you an opportunity to think of me in a different way. So I just thought it was such a first of all, it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it so much. And I thought that it had some value to it. I thought it had some value that I can maybe, change the narrative a little bit. So that's how that's how I started.
So good to hear, and I'm so happy to hear that you stuck with it because at a time where there wasn't as much people of diverse backgrounds in
Mm.
film, television, you stuck with it, and you've helped pave the way for a lot of people of
Oh,
all different backgrounds over the last couple of decades, and I think that's awesome, and that leads us straight to Five Blind Dates here in 2024.
well, thank
Uh,
you for that shout out, by the way. I appreciate that. And
no, my
no, I
pleasure.
mean, it's important, because obviously, that entertainment is really it's a great tool, you know,
Absolutely.
because entertainment is already, you have a willing audience. Otherwise, they don't have to watch you, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that they're watching you, you're pretty much halfway there. And if you're able to present something meaningful and you're able to present something that the audience say, you know what? I never thought of that. Or I thought something else. So I think it is a good way to connect all of us.
At the end of the day, we're all storytellers in our own one
Mm.
way, shape, or form. I think that's the one thing that unites everyone, no matter what race, gender, background, culture, anywhere that you come from. And I think a movie like Five Blind Dates, which I did have the opportunity to watch, I had a great time with it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and you actually took the words out of my mouth. It's a very charming movie, and
Mm.
it's got such a great, diverse cast. So let's start from the beginning. What
Okay.
attracted you to this project?
Shu Hu, who's the lead of the film, and the TikTok star I was talking about, she reached out to me and she asked me, so, well, I just wrote a script and Prime is interested in producing it. Would you be interested in playing my dad? And I said, well, of course, I mean, most of the time I would say yes. If it involves, such a breakthrough kind of a project, a first, Asian Australian woman writing a script, well, women writing script is rare already. So I said, okay, I will participate regardless of whether the script is good or bad. I don't care. Because I always feel that we should also be able to have the opportunity to afford failure, because a lot of times, we fail and then you never see them again. And other people have had the opportunity to fail and try again, fail and try again, and try again. And I think we also should be afforded that opportunity. We should be able to afford to fail and try again. So I said, regardless, I would do this project. And then she sent me the script. I said, okay, this is beyond my uh, paradigm of how to accept the project. I said, this is a really good script. I congratulated her and I said, I'll be happy to play your dad.
Like as I mentioned, Mr. Ma, I've seen you in so many different roles over the years, and you're so often
Mm.
referred to as everyone's favorite dad of Asian descent in movies. And what I loved about your portrayal of the father figure in this movie is you've done the roles where you're the serious, hardworking dad. In this, it's almost like this outgoing, lovable dad of this close knit family that's sometimes very dysfunctional. So, what was your favorite part in bringing this character from the script to the screen?
I, I I really like the challenge, the fact that this is not a perfect family, and that we face our challenges in terms of because we know it's a family that's living in Australia. So you have certain challenges as a minority in a small town. So I also find that the character really give the Asian male an opportunity to say that I like to see a path untraveled. You know that he is into, maybe riding a motorcycle. That he's interested in maybe living on a boat. You know, so I thought that that kind of gave me that there's a flavor of this guy that was uh he basically listens to the beat of his own drum. So I think that was important. And I think it's important for us, as a culture, to maybe sometimes have to break the chains of 5,000 years of history, you know, to challenge ourselves, instead of accepting, what is given to us. And but not to forget, not to forget our roots. That's not what I mean. I mean, absolutely, there are some things about an ancient culture that needs to change. Our attitudes about women, our attitudes about where our place is, in society and history. And I think these are things that we, as a human being, needs to grow. We have to challenge ourselves. Otherwise, what's the point then?
Right, right.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, there's so many great things about this movie, and one thing that stood out to me again as a central thread of our conversation so far is the diversity and inclusion of the film. And being South Asian myself, it's not
Mm,
common that we see stories about people share our culture, our food, our background. What I really enjoyed about this film is that it didn't feel the need to create an elaborate backstory as to why we are
mm,
watching a film about an Asian family. It normalizes it, which is what I
mhm.
find is the best way to go because people of diverse backgrounds all have our own stories too. Like we're a lot more alike than people want to make it out to be. It's just a story about a family who are just living their everyday lives. So, for you personally, like how important was that for you? And you're working with director Shawn Seet on this project.
I'm excited. I mean, just to find out that there is a Asian face as a director is already something that I was looking forward to. Because there are certain things I find that we have a certain shorthand. We don't have to explain ourselves all the time. You know, whereas and I have been in situations where I have to explain myself. On why these things happen or why did you make that choice in the scene. Whereas if you're working with someone who has a understanding, of your reactions and the way you listen, the way you react, you know, uh, I don't have to sit there and go, that's why I did it. Because they see it, they understand the nuance, they understand the subtext, you know. So they understand the makeup, the social makeup of the community. So and he's Sean's very creative. I mean he brings in that kind of Western mentality because he's brought up, you know, in the West. So in that sense, he is like any other director, with an added advantage, the fact that he understands the nuance.
Mr. Ma, what would you want audiences to take away from Five Blind Dates?
Have fun. I mean, it's gonna drop on Valentine's Day.
The perfect Valentine's Day movie.
Yes, it's fun. I mean, enjoy it and to see that, you know, hopefully, whatever you think we are, hopefully we'll give you another shade, another color, another spectrum, so that you can kind of go, wow, there are a lot more to meet the eye, so I hope that that's what, and most importantly, enjoy the film because it's a fun film.
For sure, I agree 100%. And of course, for everyone watching and listening, do check out Five Blind Dates when it does release this Valentine's Day on Amazon Prime Video. Now, Mr. Ma, just again, I
Yes.
kind of want to circle back to your journey in general because
Okay.
you've been working in Hollywood for decades now. I'm curious about your perspective as someone who's lived through so many changes in the industry. What do you
Hmm.
personally find is the state of diversity and inclusion in films today?
I think we've made tremendous strides. I really personally, I believe, started with the Me Too movement. I think it started with Oscar Too White. I think all of those things were monumental steps for all of us to kind of ride the coattail of those. Really, to me, is a civil rights movement within the entertainment industry. I think we give these women a lot of credit, to say, what, you cannot take advantage, you know, you I cannot be seen as the weaker race, you know. So I pay complete homage to those movements. I think that kicked the door open where everyone start to to have take the blinders off and say, what, we need to be a little more creative instead of stand pat and creating the same thing over and over and over again. Let's think outside the box a little bit, you know. And I think it also triggers, the writing community, the community of writers of color begin to start to say, what, we can create these worlds that are unseen so far. And you were going to see a lot more of that. And I think, and to meet the challenge, of creating a world that is not your normal linear narrative of a lot of our films, have like Farewell and films of such great films, but it's very traditional, in that
Right.
sense. But you're going to start to see new projects out there on the horizon that breaks that mold, breaks the linear narrative. It kind of, you have all of these reality and fantasy combined and twists and turns, and you're already seeing it. It's already out there, and you're going to see a lot more of that, and that's really exciting as a creative, you know. So that, I mean, I like to see, those kind of challenges, and say, okay, well, is he reptilian? I mean, what is he? I mean, is he from outer space? I don't know. This is just the skin, you know what I'm saying? So I hope that continue to flourish and grow and challenge all different genres and genres that we normally are not seen in, like sci-fi and those places. And I'm excited. I'm excited.
I think you just nailed it there perfectly is that there are movements that have happened. There are
Mhm.
people that are wanting to give people of different backgrounds, different cultures, the opportunity. And one thing that you mentioned that's kind of sticking with me is you're one of the first people I've ever heard mention that sentence where you have to give us a right to fail. I think that is
Mhm.
so interesting. And I think that is such, I think it's reality because as you mentioned, there are
Mhm.
people that will get the opportunity after opportunity after opportunity versus people of different backgrounds who may just get that one shot. And
Right.
that's not ideally, that's not how the world really works, right? Because if art is subjective, who's to say what
Right.
fails and what doesn't?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's something that stuck with me now. I'm curious.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's a thought of the
Mhm.
day for sure for me.
Mhm. Okay.
Now, as someone who's worked in like hundreds of different projects, do you recall in which that one project that occurred where things started to change for you in terms of the opportunities you were getting, or was it more so like a slow burn where everything kind of built on each other?
Well, first of all, I think you as an artist must have a philosophy. You cannot just go in there and go, oh, whatever. It's
Right.
not about whatever.
Agreed.
You
Yeah.
really have to have an idea what you want to do and how you want to be creative and how do you want to represent your art. So I have rules for myself. you know I started out in the theater, so in a time where theater was very exciting. Theater was experimenting. We have the theater of the living, theater of the environmental theater. Where so everybody's experimenting. Where the color of our skin is not necessarily the most important criteria for
Right.
you to be in a project. So that kind of gave me a foothold and say, you know what, all is possible. Okay. And then as you move progress forward, you sit there and go, okay, well, we see certain stereotypes that we take for granted, say, okay, most of the time, a lot of times, Asian characters are usually the villain, the bad guy. So we're never the hero. And I said, wait a second. Okay, let me see, let me make some rules for myself. I said, if I'm going to be a villain in a film, I need the hero to be either Asian or Asian American. Rule number one. Rule number two, there are no Asian or Asian women victimized. Rule number two. Rule number three is that there has to be a balance of good and evil on the same screen together. Those are my three rules for me to accept any role as the antagonist, as the bad guy per se. Okay. And the opportunity came. And that happened to be Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire was an action film with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. He was the hero. I mean, he's the guy who saved the day. And all the victims were bad guys. There were no women victimized whatsoever. And he was a college student who was just basically trying to correct a right, a wrong to a right. So, and he gets the girl at the end. I said, okay, hey, I could be the bad guy in this film. I'd be the baddest MF you can ever see. Because the bad as I am, the worse that I portray this particular character, the more heroic he is. Because it's all about contrast, right? So if I was kind of mild bad guy, it don't make him that heroic, So I really have to be really bad. I mean, we had to fight to the death, and it was like, I mean, we went all out. So really, when you set your mind to certain things and you set certain parameters for yourself, you know, good things will happen. And sure enough, now I don't have to worry about that because there is enough diversity out there, I think for us, to be able to portray anything we want, you know, as long as that doesn't perpetuate a particular stereotype, right? And one of them is be developing is other, again, which is we have to seek those opportunities is that we are still seen as perpetual foreigners as great as all some of those roles that I've gotten, I was still a foreigner. So I really welcome more roles where I am the Asian American, you know, and those things are coming because we are part of the fabric and the makeup of this culture. Everything's already been integrated and adapted, you know. I mean, today there isn't a kid on the street that don't know boba. Everybody knows boba, man.
That's
Come
true.
on.
Yep.
Maybe back in the day, nobody what is that? So you're talking about, as we move forward, as we progress, you know, these things continue to evolve and change, right? So I will welcome more opportunities, roles that will portray me as an American who happens to be of Asian descent. So that is something that we have to strive for as well, and so that we can take that stigma out of the where you from? I'm
Yep.
from New York City. Oh no, where you really from? New York City.
New York
It's
City,
like
yeah.
they have to get to the bottom of it. You have to. It's like oh yeah, And sometimes I make shit up. I'm going to say, oh yeah, I'm actually a Mongolian prince. I said, yeah, I'm from from the Gobi Desert, man. And they get excited and shit. I said, no, 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 I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. I'm from Staten Island, New York, yo.
Yeah, I love that, Mr. Ma. And it's on the topic of your projects. There's a project of yours I really wanted to speak to you about it because it has a very
Mm.
special place in my heart. And it's a movie that I've probably seen like 100 times. I kid you not. And that is Rush Hour. And that, of course, of your role of Ambassador Han in that film. It's such a trailblazing and hilarious movie. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what are some of your favorite memories of working alongside Jackie Chan and the late great Tom Wilkinson in that film?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? And Chris Tucker,
Chris Tucker as
right?
well. Hmm.
So, first of all, it's a historical film. It's the first time where Hollywood have made a film with two leads of color,
Yeah,
an Asian and a black man. Before it was always just salt and pepper,
yeah.
you know, and it's the first time they said, you know what, Th- let's do it this way, right? I mean, they didn't have to. I don't think originally was thought up that way. Don't quote me on that because I don't really know for sure. But I doubt that they had Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker in mind. I really
Yeah,
do.
it's like
You
opposite
know,
ends, right?
exactly. So to do that alone was already a monumental, endeavor for them. And I'm glad they had the courage to do it. And they got duly rewarded, you know what I'm saying? But working with Tom and Jackie and a host of other folks, I can't their names escape me, but we had a guy who played the FBI agent who's in Shawshank Redemption. So
Right.
you really have a very veteran group of actors, surrounding Chris because Chris can go off.
Yeah.
So really, no matter where Chris turns, he always have a veteran actor to bounce off of. No matter where he turned, whether it be Jackie, whether it be Tom or me, you know, and that's the beauty of that film, is that we're able to have fun and for Chris and Jackie, we were fortunate. They just had great chemistry. They fed off each other very well. And that is something you cannot predict. You don't know
Yeah.
until you see it, and it's just that they were great together, you know, and it was hard to keep a straight face, to be honest, on set because both of these guys are so goofy. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
man, it's like, oh God, man, my side hurts because I'm laughing so hard. And then it's like, oh man, I'm tearing up. Oh, that's a tear of joy, man. I mean, this has nothing to do with the scene. Anyway, no, it was a great experience.
Well, my last question on the topic is: should they do a Rush Hour 4? And would that be something you potentially would be interested in coming in for?
They've been talking about it forever. And for the longest time, they wanted to. I think Arthur wanted to do. He's the producer, Sarkisian. I think that's his last name. He wanted to do 4 and 5 together. He says it saves us money. We could do two together. It's like, and we have not been able to make that real. But there's everybody, they all talk about it every so often, maybe 6 months or something. Boom, that same conversation comes in. Let's do Rush Hour, blah blah blah. And I said, hey, you know what? Of course, you should do it. It's a great franchise, and I'm sure the boys, will come up with something new because they're so good together, you know. And I'll be happy to participate. I'm not quite sure how, maybe I get promoted. Maybe I'm the president now. I don't know. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mr. Ma throwing
So,
out the ideas there. I like it. I like where your mind's at with
yeah.
this. Well, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And you know what?
Hmm.
Just having this conversation with you over the last half an hour, Mr. Ma, it's been again such a pleasure. And
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. As someone who's watched your work for decades. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I truly wish you all the best with the release of Five Blind Dates. And I look forward to having you back on the show to discuss your next project.
Oh, that sounds terrific. It would be my pleasure to do so. And I tell you, an interview is not a one-sided thing. If you're not a good interviewer, I wouldn't be able to give you, the kind of answers that you thought it was good. So, kudos to you.
Oh, that's my pleasure. That's my pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Ma.
My pleasure.